He was a top Kenyan banker. She was his wife of 22 years. But when she fled to the U.S., fearing for her life, he followed with a deadly plan. In the world of high finance, Leonard Mwithiga was a respected name, but behind the polished suits and corporate titles was a man accused of plotting something horrifying. In late 2023, Leonard, once a senior executive at Kenya Commercial Bank, was arrested in Connecticut, USA, for allegedly attempting to hire a hitman to kill his estranged wife. What followed was a cross-continental investigation involving undercover agents, secret recordings, and a chilling plan that sounds like something from a crime drama. This case falls under U.S. criminal laws regarding conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder. The charges carry decades in prison and are treated with utmost seriousness because they involve premeditated intent. How does a man go from corporate boardrooms to a courtroom on murder charges? Leonard wasn't just another banker. He was the banker, educated, influential, and connected. He held high-ranking roles at Barclays, Chase Bank, Equity, and finally KCB. He had a PhD in business, an MBA, and decades of experience. But behind the CV was a man whose marriage had crumbled, allegedly due to violence, control, and manipulation. His wife, fearing for her safety, took their children and fled Kenya for the U.S. in 2022. In both Kenyan and U.S. law, spousal abuse and coercive control are grounds for protective orders, custody battles, and, if proven, criminal charges. However, fleeing across borders makes the legal process more complex. Before murder entered the picture, there were signs, dark ones. According to court documents, Leonard's wife suffered years of abuse. In one chilling incident, he allegedly used his influence to have her committed to a mental facility by falsely claiming she was unstable. After her release, they briefly reconciled, but the abuse resumed. Feeling trapped, she made a bold escape to America with their kids. Wrongful commitment can be considered unlawful detention. In the U.S., it would also violate mental health and civil rights laws. These allegations, while separate, paint a picture of motive and intent. She thought America meant safety, but he wasn't done. In September 2022, she resettled in the U.S., trying to start over. But back in Kenya, Leonard was preparing for legal war. He filed for custody, hired private investigators to track her son, and made multiple trips to America. The stage was being set for something far more sinister. When a custody case crosses international borders, it often falls under the Hague Convention. But using private investigators to stalk someone, especially minors, can amount to harassment and endangerment. "I need someone who is a killer." That's what he allegedly said. Leonard reportedly approached an Uber driver in Connecticut, asking if he could help find someone to put her down. The driver went to the police, and they set a trap. Over the next few weeks, Leonard communicated with undercover officers posing as hitmen. He allegedly suggested methods, from stabbing to injecting her with something to simulate a disease. Solicitation to commit murder is a serious felony in the U.S. The moment someone takes a concrete step, like payment or planning, law enforcement can move in, even if no murder occurs. He handed over $400 and sealed his fate. On December 1, 2023, Leonard met with a hitman, a Connecticut state trooper. He handed him $300 as a down payment and another $100 to the Uber driver. He described the victim, showed where she lived, and said he'd be in Kenya when it happened, to create an alibi. This transaction is called an overt act in a conspiracy case. Even if the murder never takes place, the intent and steps taken qualify as a prosecutable crime. They let him walk out. Then they swarmed. Just days later, on December 4, 2023, police arrested Leonard. He was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, criminal attempt to murder with special circumstances, and attempt to intimidate a witness. The judge seeing a clear flight risk, denied low bail. Instead, bond was set at $5 million high bond. Amounts are used when a suspect is considered dangerous or likely to flee the country. In this case, his international ties and the seriousness of the crime justified the strict conditions. Even behind bars, she's still scared. Leonard's wife now lives under protective watch. A restraining order keeps him away from her and their children. Her new life in America is haunted by what could have been. The U.S. Prosecutor's Office is pushing for maximum penalty, and Kenyan authorities are watching closely. Legal explanation. Protective orders, especially in domestic violence cases, are designed to prevent contact and intimidation. In murder-for-hire plots, victim protection becomes top priority. A powerful man, a desperate woman, and the law that stood between them. Leonard's story is far from over. As of 2025, he hasn't been sentenced, but his trial looms. His case is a stark reminder that even across oceans, the law will chase you down. For survivors of abuse, it's also proof that leaving isn't the end of fear, but it can be the beginning of justice. The U.S. legal system often collaborates internationally when a foreign national commits a crime on its soil. This case shows the strength of undercover operations, victim protection laws, and why attempted crimes are prosecuted with full force. Subscribe to Laws of the Land for more cautionary true stories that show how the law protects and punishes your safety, your justice, your rights.